the Now That We're a Family podcast.
Katie, this feels like a date. Kind of being back in the studio together, being able to record an episode with just the two of us. I kind of missed this.
I know, it's really special. I'm excited about it. We've either been doing interviews separately or together, and we've talked to some really awesome people. But it's fun to just have it be chill and just you and I after the kiddos go to bed.
I agree. We've said this time and time again on the podcast, but I still think it, so I'll say it again. And something that I've appreciated about this podcast is that it gives us like this weekly opportunity to have some time together to kind of connect and think about or hear about what we're learning, what the other person is learning. So I love this. I love that we can do this.
I know. I'm really grateful for it too. And I'm so excited that it is the end of the year because this is one of my favorite weeks of the year. I like it more than the first week of the year. I feel so much energy and creativity just that day after Christmas to the New Year starting. It just feels like anything you do is a bonus. So whether that is wrapping up the current year or planning and getting everything, all your ducks in a row to have a running start into the year that's coming, it's just really fun. And I think because so many people are chilling during this time, whatever that means for them, it's kind of a vacation-y kind of week.
Sure, yeah.
It just feels really like, if I do something productive, then I'm going to have an edge going into the new year.
Yeah, it's easy to feel like you can get these small wins because everything feels extra. It doesn't feel like you need to do anything. So when you get like a workout in or you get projects around the house done, it really feels like this extra thing where you're setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, but before we jump in to sharing what the one thing is that we do at the end of every year before going into the new year, I want to say a couple things to our listeners. Are you ready? That was quite the intro, huh?
Yeah, that was. I'm on the edge of my seat. I mean, if I could be on the edge of my seat in these yellow chairs.
I wish it was like a big announcement. Really, I want to do better at the beginning of our podcasts of kind of updating everyone, all of our listeners on what we're currently working on or what we're currently doing. Because I think on our Instagram, we do that a lot more. Even though we're becoming less and less of like daily, creators where we're sharing our life on a daily basis, for the most part, we give pretty up-to-date updates on Instagram, but we'll fail to do that here on the podcast. So I'm going to say a couple things just before we get rolling. Is that all right?
All right. Yeah,
You're
let's
cool
get
with
going.
That? Okay. So first thing is that Top 5 Tuesday. If you guys have not subscribed to the Top 5 Tuesday email,
you're definitely missing out. Elisha is so funny. I love your updates.
Thanks, Katie. I've been writing a weekly email for over a year now, like 16, 17 months. Every Tuesday, and that is like a brief update on our family. I kind of take like 5 highlights from that previous week, and I share it in an email, the written form. And that's anything from like a fun activity we did as a family to a book that Katie's reading to, I don't know, like a disaster that happened in the home that week.
Yeah, we really want to get away from sharing our everyday life on social media. And so because of that, we share a lot of things that we don't share on social media through that email.
Yes.
And we also keep you guys updated as far as just if we're coming out with anything, like you said, anything we're reading, anything we're learning, and different resources we find along the way. So it's a pretty fun email.
Yeah, so if you're not subscribed to the Top 5 Tuesday, you can go to nowthatwe'reafamily.com, scroll to the bottom, and there's like a sign-up form there at the bottom of the homepage on nowthatwe'reafamily.com. The other thing is, I just want to say a huge thank you. Katie and I, we really wanted to, I think we told many of you, it's like, we want to get as many ratings and reviews as we can by the end of the year.
I said 1,000. And then you guys did your part.
Yes.
And
we couldn't believe we said that, like 2 months ago. I think we were at like 750 ratings and reviews. And we said that in one episode, and we jumped like 75 ratings and reviews within a couple of weeks because you guys were being so kind and thoughtful and generous with your time to get on iTunes and leave a rating or a review. And then we stopped talking about it. It's like we mentioned that one goal and then just kind of like stopped talking about it and moved on to, I guess, other goals or something.
We were doing interviews, and I think I just forgot totally about that.
Yes. So thank you all. We didn't hit that goal. I mean, I know there's still some time before when this episode goes out. Well, we've got a few more days. So, I mean, if you guys really want to get crazy and get us, I think we're not even at quite 900, I don't think. But we've been so blessed with
thank you guys.
the ratings and reviews that you've made on iTunes. And if you haven't done that and you enjoy this podcast, please, we would so appreciate it if you went to iTunes and left a rating or a review. And then the final thing that I'm going to say is that if you watch this podcast on YouTube, if you're able to like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to us as well. So those are the things I wanted to say, Katie, that kind of derailed your flow there. You're getting ready to jump into the episode. And I was like, whoa, I need to say some things that are really
Elisha
important
with the
to me.
housekeeping over here. No, that's super helpful though, because we do want this podcast to get out to more listeners in the coming year. And you guys are the way that we do that.
Yes.
Ultimately, we show up here every week, but you guys are the reason that people will find us. So thank you so much for that.
Yes. And I do feel bad because I wish we could return the comments, respond to a lot of these comments on iTunes, but you can't. There's no back and forth dialogue, but we see all of them. They mean so much to us. And then whenever you guys share on Instagram or share on any of the social media platforms, that means so much to us as well. So again, I'll stop, but yes, thank you all so much for you. Because like I said, Katie and I love doing this podcast. We have the opportunity to connect every week, and it gives us some structure and some some structure for what we're learning and finding different ways to express it. And of course, we wouldn't be doing this podcast on a weekly basis if it wasn't for you guys listening and then encouraging us and really kind of cheering us on with it. And so it really just means so much to us. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're excited today to share about one tool we have mentioned before, but we do this every year. And we have done quite a few things over the years. Tried different experiments when it comes to the end of the year, I guess.
Oh, you're right.
And been like, okay, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? Something that I've done really consistently at the end of every year is I dream board. And that's been, I don't know, I'm going on 5 years, I think, of dream boarding. So that's pretty fun.
Yep.
I feel like that's something that I do. But then together, Elisha and I get together and
the dream board is not the one thing.
No,
so
it's not.
That's not. So
it's just the bonus.
That's just one thing that you've been doing.
It's one thing that I do. It's not one thing that we do together.
Yes.
Elisha's kind of on and off done it, but it's really been my thing. Actually, I'm really excited. If you guys are in the Get It All Done Club, this week we're going to be putting together our dream boards together. So if you didn't get that email and you listen to the podcast, hopefully you'll join us.
Yeah, because I think there's
really
a
fun.
Zoom link that you sent out, right? Or you're going to be doing that via Zoom?
Yeah. So
that'll be pretty cool.
We'll be on Thursday, I think, going live and building our dream boards together. But what's the one thing that we do together?
We use a tool called Stop, Go, Grow. And this is a tool that we got from Katie's daddy, Chad Johnson. He's an entrepreneurial coach. He coaches really high-performing entrepreneurs. And this is a tool that they use on a regular basis. This is something that you can use on a daily basis, but really it's used, I think, with my father-in-law's coaching on a quarterly basis. People will review the quarter and then they'll say, I need to stop this, I need to start this, and then I need to grow this. Katie and I like using this tool throughout the year, but especially at the end of the year. We just did this literally yesterday. Mm-hmm. We sat down with our calendar from the previous year. You can take out your phone and look at your photos as a good way to remember everything that you did in the year. And we try to just write down everything that we did, not just everything we did in business or everything we did for travel, but just anything that showed up on the calendar or in our photos feed, write it down.
As highlights. I mean, you can get as specific as you want, but we were judging the big things. If it didn't make it on the calendar, we weren't writing it.
I don't know. I wrote down every time I brushed my teeth and I wrote down every time. No, you're right. Just kind of the things that if they were if a big enough deal to make it onto the calendar, basically. Then,
if it was taking time, energy, money, or giving us one of those things, if it was a cost, then we wanted to look at it and be like, okay, was there a good return on investment here? Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important. I mean, we did it with the business and our personal lives all at one time because our personal lives are very contingent on what's going on in the business. So that's kind of how we did it. But you can do this just with a personal life thing if your job is more set and it's 9 to 5 and you don't have maybe these big push weeks and then off weeks or stuff like that with a more entrepreneurial situation. But after we wrote down our long list, I mean, do you want to say some of the things on our list?
Sure, this is
Are we
like
gonna
all
get,
over
personal?
the place. I mean, going back to January, a trip that we took in Florida, we did a home renovation. We are getting ready for Lawrence to be born, so we were going to a lot of doctors, or I guess like midwife's appointments, and then there were some challenges with that, so we had to go to some doctor's appointments as well. We like bought a bunch of new podcast gear. We hired some people. Again, so this is like some business stuff and personal stuff. We went on a trip to see Katie's family in Montana. So you guys get the point. Like, just kind of write everything down. We went to church every Sunday. We went to a cousin's wedding. This is just my sister's wedding. Katie joined a mom's group that was a part of our church.
Katie joined 27
Yeah,
extracurricular
you joined
activities
too many
this summer.
groups.
Oh,
yes,
my word.
You went nuts. A bunch of business stuff that I wrote down on here, like our rebrand and some new products that we came out with. I got rid of a smartphone and used the light phone all year. So that was a big deal. Katie started sourdough. So, I mean, that's like
big.
It's a big lifestyle thing. Once you make that commitment, it's a big deal.
It's like a fifth child. Or the kids did gymnastics,
Yes.
stuff like that. And once we wrote down everything that we felt like was a taker of our time and energy. Speaking of which, okay, you mentioned the Florida trip.
Yes.
That our last podcast of 2020 was during the Florida trip.
You're right. It was like this exact time last year.
Yeah. And we were listening back to it, and I was just thinking, wow, that is one thing we did really well is we didn't do a Florida trip. No, I'm kidding. Like, my voice was out at the end of the year, and we decided we're going to spend the last week of the year home.
Yeah.
We don't want to spend the last week of the year somewhere else, like with one of our families or on vacation or anything like that, because we just felt so behind starting the year and so worn down. And so it's fun, I guess, to learn certain things because the end of this year just feels so much different.
Yeah, we truly have made changes in our life for the better. And that's something else. We talk about the stop, go, grow tool that we use, because after we write all these things down, as we'll continue, you categorize them into things you're going to stop, things you're going to keep going on, and then things you want to grow in or like improve upon. And in the midst of doing this, it also makes you reflect and look at the areas that you have grown in and improved upon, because it blows my mind the fog I will be living in, mental fog I'll be living in, feeling like I'm not making progress in anything or having success in anything until I take the time to reflect and see where we were and to think about different, I guess, priorities we had or different changes we implemented into our life for an intentional reason, and seeing what the positive impact of those things have been, that I start realizing like, oh my goodness, like not only have we grown a ton, like the Lord's been extremely gracious towards us. He's blessed us in so many ways. And it's nuts how evaluating the year after kind of going through that positive focus of the year is also so helpful in approaching the next year, I think.
Yeah, and positive focus just basically means looking back and saying, okay, what went well? And so it's not giving any room for, okay, like our brains automatically go negative, right?
Yes.
Okay, I did this, I hated that, I had that bad, relationship issue in the middle of the year. There were complications with Lawrence's birth, stuff like that. But the positive focus is intentionally training our brains, because the Lord is blessing us every single day, just like with the air we breathe. And that's such that foundation, a foundation built on like, okay, what went well is so much more motivating to work from than this place of weakness or failure or, despondency, because all you can see is everything that went wrong. Things are going to go wrong every single year.
Yes, and there's always going to be improvement that needs or should be made. And I think that, like you said, the way our brains automatically go is to seeing the shortcomings in our life, seeing the areas that probably we feel like we need to improve upon, and only seeing that rather than looking back and seeing where we've come from. And coming to that place of gratitude is it's such a biblical thing that we enter His course with thanksgiving in our heart, and we enter His presence with thanksgiving and His courts with praise. Is that what the psalm says?
I will enter His gates with thanksgiving in my heart.
We'll enter His gates with thanksgiving and His courts with praise.
Yeah, there you go. Nailed it.
Oh man, that was. But we're told time and time again to give thanks unto the Lord. And the more you're able to specify what it is you're giving thanks for, it like starts this domino effect of realizing like every little thing that led to these big things. And you're like, oh my goodness, what an amazing year it was. Whereas like 20 minutes earlier, your brain was only focusing on the problems that lie ahead of you, or things that didn't go so well in the previous year.
Yeah, and I think that the tendency, if maybe this doesn't sound like something you would be into, is to write it off as, oh, toxic positivity, and not acknowledging things that need to get better, or relationships that need work, or character flaws that we need to grow out of. But really, I think of that verse, in everything give thanks. And we truly are supposed to give thanks in everything. And so I think we're supposed to work from a thankful place.
Yes, we've been given all things that pertain unto life and godliness through the knowledge of Jesus Christ. And we know him. He's given us all these things. So it's like that's the starting point, but then he's also created us for good works, that which he before ordained that we should walk in them. And so knowing that we've been given all things that pertain to life and godliness, it's fun to track back and be like, oh, that's right. He gave me that. He gave me this. What does that look like? And then also working, we've found that just for like pretty much any human being, working from a place of, again, it's just unfortunate that this word has become like such a, I know why people like react to this word, because it is annoying how people will use positivity in this really fake way, where it's like you said, toxic positivity. I know that's a thing, but it's just like fake positivity. It's like it's failing to acknowledge what's wrong. It's failing to acknowledge that there is sin in your life, or that there are problems in your marriage, or that there is dysfunction in your home, and saying like, oh no, like my positive thinking is just gonna get me through
override
this. It's override
everything.
this, and that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about, because clearly there are improvements that constantly need to be made in our life until the day that we die. As long as we're in these human bodies, we're going to be growing in our faith and maturing as believers. And I do think that becomes such a more enjoyable journey, and even productive journey, when you do it from a place of being thankful for what the Lord has already accomplished and given to you. And that means big picture, what he accomplished on the cross, and giving us a right relationship with him and securing our eternal place with him. But then also on a very practical level, that the fact that he did feed us for another year is such a blessing. That we are sitting here with good health, that we've got 4 children. I mean, those are big things too, but just breaking it down to even the smaller things, that our car broke down and we had the money to fix it, when it did break down. I think being able to evaluate those things, acknowledge them, praise the Lord, and then look to your next year with that mindset, I think it's really crucial.
Yeah, I think so too. So you could write out on a piece of paper, stop, go, grow, and write into each one of these categories as you go. Think the go word can be kind of confusing for people. That basically means start. So it could be stop, start, grow, or it could be, stop, go, grow has like way more of a ring to it. So
Stop, go, grow.
Stop, go, grow. But that go word means start. And what Elisha and I did this year, though, is really just write down this big old long list and then categorize everything afterwards by talking through time and energy.
Yes.
How much time did this take? Was it worth it? How much energy did this take? Was it worth it? Certain events that used to be really fun for us were like, okay, the whole 4-kid thing, really like the amount of energy that took was not what it used to be.
Yeah, driving, 10 hours to an event, a weekend event with 4 kids is just not the same as what it was when it was just you and me.
Or 1 or 2,
Yeah,
even
exactly.
the 2,
Yeah.
I think up to 3. But for whatever reason, having the 4, it just was different. Maybe it's the age of our kids. So evaluating, okay, we've done this for the past few years, but it wasn't an energy giver this year. It really took. And then we were able to put that in the stop category.
That's right.
And there's some things that take a lot of time and energy that you can't put in a stop category.
Well, what are you gonna? I want to hear. But
what were you gonna say?
Well, I cut you off too soon. Okay, sorry. You were saying there are going to be some things that you can't put into the stop category. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, you can't put them into the stop category, and so because they are necessary or an integral part of your life, and so you have to. Well, for us, we are going to try to systematize them.
That's right. We've talked about systems
Everyone
before all the time.
over and dies.
Yeah, because I think
it's the best thing in the world, because basically it's like making it way easier to do, way more efficient. It's like, okay, if we can't get rid of it, how can we make it fun or enjoyable or get it over quickly?
Yeah, because like I mentioned, Katie and I went through this process yesterday, and about halfway through it, I was about ready to like throw down the pen and just kind of become a victim to the next year, because I was like, all these hard things that took so much energy and took so much of our time and money, like we can't. There's no way around them. We need them. We need them in our life, or we need to do these things. And that we just have to do them again in 2022. And then we realized, like, okay, for these things that are non-negotiables, we have to have them in our life. Can we improve upon them? And so again, this is all a part of the exercise. You can go as deep into these things as you want, but we were talking about the stop, go, grow. And we're like, okay, well, we need to keep going on this one, but can we grow in our system in which we have around this so that it's not so much of a take from us?
Yeah, because some things too are going to happen. Do you hear our kiddos?
Yeah. Okay, wow.
We're back.
Little intermission to get all the kiddos back in their bed. It's been a while since we've put the kids to bed and recorded a podcast, because like we mentioned at the beginning, we've been doing interviews, which we've been doing like in the middle of the day. But yeah, we're back to doing them at nighttime. And the kids were all curious. They were like, all three of them were standing right outside the door listening in, and somebody made too much noise and gave them up.
Busted. Okay, so I can't quite remember where we were, but I think we were talking about creating a system for things that you can't
get around.
Yes. And that sounds all really negative, but I'm going to give you guys one example that's not totally negative. It's just overwhelming.
Yes,
I think us.
Exactly. You're right. We were talking about these things like what a lame thing.
And some are.
Some are maybe. I don't know. I think the very lame things we've just eliminated for the most part. Yeah. But these things they're a win, but they're also just a big time energy withdrawal, probably.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, your preface just is so dramatic.
Sorry.
But basically, relationships this year were really overwhelming. I think, I don't know what it was. I think maybe it's just the nature of where our families are. Two of our siblings got married this year. There's more grandkids. There's more cousins. There's a lot of my siblings aren't living at home anymore, so they're living like all over. I don't know what it is, but we had a lot of relationships this year, which is like a huge blessing, but the complexity started really overwhelming me and feeling like I'm always behind. I can't stay in touch with everyone. Like these are people I really care about, and I want them to know that I love them and that I care about them. But then Elisha and I ended up running ourselves into the ground, trying to bend over backwards for everyone to show them that we did love them and care about them.
Right.
Because
they do matter to us.
They do.
Big time.
And so we're like, but how do you explain, like, if someone asks you for something and it's the only request they've made all year, but they don't realize that, like, you have like 40 or 60 other people that have also, made asks. And I'm sure I do this of my parents and siblings all the time too.
I know that. I know I've done that with my parents and my siblings.
Yeah, you're like, hey, could you watch our kids or something? And they just babysat some other grandkids or whatever. So it's a give and take. It's just the nature of having a lot of rich relationships.
Yes.
And we realized, okay, we can't just go through life like we always have, where we're just going to, take relationship as it comes and it's all going to work out. It's like, no, we have to be really intentional and get out ahead of this, because we don't like getting behind the ball and having hurt feelings and having to work through those. And we also want people to know that we care while setting boundaries and being able to say no.
Yeah, it was a really interesting year in that regards, because as most of you probably know, Katie and I adore our families, both of them, and they're our best friends. Literally, it's not like they're competing with our other relationships that we wish we could spend more time with. Even it's like, no, we just we love our families. They're our best friends. We love our parents. They're our biggest source of encouragement. Our families are like our biggest source of fun and of activity. And so they have been such a blessing in our life.
They give so much.
They give so much. And yet just from a like physical energy and bandwidth standpoint, we found ourselves getting ran into the ground this last year. I think another variable was that we've got more and more young adult siblings. Because I'm from a family of 10 children, Katie's from a family of 11, and we're towards the older, Katie's the oldest in her family, and I'm in the oldest half of my family. And for a long time, like the children, when your siblings are younger, those are really easy relationships to maintain because you see them whenever you see them, and you play catch with them or you play soccer, and things are good. But as we have siblings becoming young adults, like you said, entering into serious relationships or getting married or starting their own families, the complexity of their life increases while our life at the same time, the complexity of our life is increasing. And so we want these relationships so badly, but it has become more of a logistical challenge to maintain them.
Yeah. So something that we did was you wrote down a list of like our top priority people where we're like, okay, we really want these people to know how much we are grateful for them and love them. And it was funny because I was talking with my mom about just like my overwhelm, and she's like, yeah, well, I don't know if it was a psychologist or general knowledge, some fact out there, you should only have like 5 or 6 people that are like close to you. And I was like, that's impossible. Like that is not helpful advice. I have 10 siblings that I care about on my side of the family. So anyways,
and
it was
they're
just
getting
kind of
married.
funny.
And so now you have in-laws.
It's like, well, they don't mention when you have 100 close people that you really care about. What do you do about the 100? So we wrote down a list of the people that we want to proactively reach out to. So we don't want to be playing from behind.
Yes.
And when they're making, reaching out with a request or with
an invite
or something like that. Yeah. We're able, to just have that relational equity built up in that relationship. So if it's best for our family to say no or decline the offer or whatever, we're able to do that without it being like, this is the only time I hear from you and I invite you to something and you say no.
Yes.
They know that we reach out and we care and it, we're trying to juggle a lot.
Yes, that's right. And so again, I don't want people to think that, the way to maintain healthy relationships is just to like put them into this system that's not emotional or you're not uncaring. It's actually the opposite. It's because we care about these people so much that we want to have proactive, meaningful conversations with them rather than letting life get so out of control that the few times we are given an opportunity or that the opportunity presents itself to us, that we're in a place where we feel like we have to for the well-being of the relationship. If we can be proactive and more on our terms before life gets crazy, be, growing those relationships, I'm hoping that gives us a lot more of the ability to do what's actually best for our family in the moment.
Yes, you said that really well. It's basically just having a plan.
Yes.
Instead of shooting from the hip.
Right.
And so we have a plan for this year and we'll see how it goes. It's, trial by fire, so we'll see. But I'm excited about that.
Me too.
That's one area that we're like, okay, there is so much time and energy there that probably wasn't, sometimes it was a really good thing. And sometimes we were just doing it to save the relationship, but our family was really fried in the process. And so we want to work on that.
And that's just a new thing for us. Like we talked about, I think because we live in a different town than any of our families, we've got 4 children now. It's crazy how it's just more of a tax on our whole family to go to events, to travel, to have people over. And so it's just an interesting dilemma sometimes, thinking like, okay, wait a second, our family, the health of our family, because a lot of times it really did have dramatic negative implications on our physical health. I mean, the sickest we've ever been in our life, I think was just running ourselves ragged with a lot of these things. Emotionally drained, challenges in our marriage because we weren't giving ourselves the time to connect because, we were out and about. And so it's not like it's just, I don't want to sound like these are just a selfish preference where it's like, we want to like sit at home and watch our shows. That's not what we're basing this off of. I think we are looking at the kind of the chain of priorities in our life and saying, okay, for our marriage, for our children, for our health, we really need to make sure we can protect these things for the long-term well-being of these relationships and our family.
Yeah. And it was I think another thing that came to mind is this was the first year that you didn't have a side job of any kind or a
Yes.
job of any kind,
Yes.
aside from being entrepreneurial. So it seems like we're available all the time
Yes.
because we're in control of our own schedule, and you especially are. So there
Wow.
were weeks, like literally 1 month this year, we had someone staying at our house every single week. We had
Yeah.
a family staying at our house all month.
Yep.
And Elisha and I just weren't able to connect or talk or stuff like that.
Yep.
And so, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think before, you're right, that was something else that changed in addition to having more children and living in a different town. This was the first year I didn't have a job that we could kind of use as a way to keep us, in some sort of schedule or routine.
Yeah. So that's something. And I'm trying to think what else.
The stop, go, grow. Overall, that's what we wanted to reference. And this obviously dives into, because even though we started with the stop, go, grow tool, we actually used a bunch of other tools. Like they said, the positive focus is a whole other tool. Katie and I have this mantra that we want to live a low drag, high impact life. And so we'll oftentimes use that kind of filter when we're looking at events. Was this a low drag, high impact event? And again, it doesn't always work because sometimes the drag is worth the impact, even if there is drag. But ideally, we're shooting for low drag, high impact if we can. And so even though the main tool that kind of got this conversation started and evaluating the previous year, looking to the next year, was the stop, go, grow, I think we used a bunch of these other tools in the systems to once we actually evaluated the year to be like, okay, now what systems are we going to use? Is this a low drag, high impact? What's the positive focus on this event?
Elisha and I have a lot of internal language in our home.
Yeah.
Where you say something and it means a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so we definitely do that a lot. I think that once the whole concept of the stop, go, grow is that you have to stop things before you add things to your life. And
Yes.
I think it's so easy to go into the new year thinking, okay, these are all my goals or my resolutions or the things I want to start often. When it's okay, some things in our life are going to take a lot of energy to just maintain.
Yep.
And we do want to keep them and we want to grow. And then if we're going to make room for new things, we're going to have to eliminate some of the clutter in our life, figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a really important full concept because you've got to get rid of some stuff before you could start anything new.
Exactly. We only have a finite amount of time allotted to us in each year. And so we got to work within those parameters basically.
Yeah, so once we went over this tool, we got out our calendar and we planned out our year. We're getting better and better at this.
Yes.
So for us, we planned out our vacations that we would really like to take. Elisha and I really want to take a vacation this year, just us.
Yep.
And so
We're going to put that on the calendar.
it's on the calendar.
It's on the calendar.
Lawrence has a weaning deadline now.
Yeah, I know. He does. Whether he knows it's coming or not, it's coming.
Yeah, we put anything we can think of that's annual or wedding invitations.
Yep.
We go to a lot of weddings,
Yep.
which is
Family
really
reunions,
fun.
holidays. Yeah, exactly. Birthdays.
Camps. Yeah, family camping trips. Yeah, things like Easter and 4th of July that we're now oh, Elisha and I have been going to his families for Easter and 4th of July for the last 5 years. We probably shouldn't be surprised when that weekend comes up and
We want to go there.
we want to go.
So let's put that on the calendar
let's
now.
plan it on the calendar right now.
Yeah.
And then we also are getting better at planning free days and buffer days around those
Big trips or
big trips.
big events.
It's we can't come back from a big trip and then have a deadline scheduled the next day for
Right.
a big interview or a lunch or
Yeah.
something like that because we're just fried. So we actually build into that allotted trip time buffer days on either side or
Yes.
maybe even a free day for
Yes.
one of us. Elisha's really good about doing that for me.
Oh, well, I think you're better at using free days. I feel like if I give you a free day, you maximize the 12 hours or however many hours you get to really come back rejuvenated and refueled. Whereas I have a free day and I get stressed out. I'm
You said your last one was really
It
good.
was.
Though.
I've gotten
you can't
better at it.
speak that over
Okay,
yourself.
yes. Positive toxicity. What is it? Toxic positivity?
No, it's not. You said that the last one was good.
It was good.
Yeah.
No,
I feel
you're so
you're
right.
discrediting the growth that
You're right.
made in that
I need to
area.
have a more positive focus on how my last free day went. Oh man.
You're just discrediting everything we're saying right now. Okay, if you guys don't know what a free day is, too, it's a day that Elisha or I will give each other, which is basically just a day that it's just your day. And you can go and do whatever you want to do.
Yep.
And we've gotten better at these. I think I used to think, okay, I'm going to go run all these errands and I'm going to work on this project I wanted to do. And I'm going to, meet up with a friend. And all those things are, more draining to me for something like a free day. Or I'll scroll social media.
Well,
So now it's like you leave your phone at home.
Yeah, there's like rules to our free days now where, like you said, you can't just make up on all these projects that have been half baked for a couple months. That's not the point of it. It is to do stuff that's non-work related, like house chores related, not even like relationship related for outside relationships. It's just truly, like you said, getting off the internet, getting off your phone, getting a book that's not even really related to stuff that you're working on in the moment. Just really unplugging, and rejuvenating. Yeah,
so those are really important. And I'd say we do those maybe like once a quarter. Both of us get a free day. I think we each, I think I got, no, actually, I don't know. I think we did got
3.
Like 2 last
year.
No,
I think we both got 3 last year.
Yeah, so we're aiming for one a quarter
Yeah.
at this point in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But planning out the year is so helpful because it helps us not commit to things because we're like, oh, this is on the calendar.
Right, exactly. Everything sounds like a good idea when it's presented to you. And
when your week's not planned out, you're like, okay, it's crazy. Like February is a really full month for us already.
It is.
But I'll think, oh, nothing's going on in June because like we didn't plan through June.
Right.
If we just planned out the quarter, it seemed like nothing's going on in June. So we'll like plan a ton of stuff in June and then lo and behold, it's
of
crazy.
Course, that's right.
So doing the whole year is really helpful, and then we get detailed for the next quarter.
Because you got to claim your calendar before someone else does. Right.
Nice.
That's
is that
what you
a quote
do.
from someone?
It is.
I feel like you should, Elisha.
I think it's.
You sure?
Well, I feel like there's a ton of versions of that. It's like if you don't prioritize your life, somebody else will. There's a bunch of like versions of that. But I think this was like Michael Hyatt quote. You got to claim your calendar before someone else does.
Nice. I like it.
But we should probably wrap this thing up, Katie, babe. Anything else you want to say in closing?
No, I'm just excited.
Me too. I'm really excited. We're so grateful that we have this podcast, that we have each other. Yes.
Finally got our chairs close enough to kind of hold hands.
Yes. Kind of. How does that? I feel like that's officially
I'm
holding
like
hands.
having to straight arm,
I see. Sorry, we can. With that said, we'll conclude. Thank you all so much for being a part of this podcast this year. We're excited for 2022. We're hoping to have it be the best year for the podcast ever, and hopefully you're all along for the ride.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.